Despite the trials of the past 2 days, Rhonda Bignell still found time to honour a long-standing promise to be guest speaker at the inaugural meeting of the Newcastle Chamber of Commerce Women's Network. The vote to sack her forced some changes to the address, but not her sense of humour. Although she refused to directly criticise the 7 councillors who voted to terminate her 5-year contract just 20 months into the job, Ms Bignell did defend her record. A Department of Local Government investigation team is currently probing the council's decision. Ms Bignell is one of only 4 women to hold a council general manager's position out of 177 local authorities in the state. She had this advice for other women seeking to climb the executive ladder. While she may not enjoy the support of the majority of Maitland City councillors, she had plenty of new allies today.
From the standing ovation, I think that's fairly clear. I think she's an inspiration to certainly the majority, if not all, of the women present today.
Phil Hind, NBN News.
They add to the culture and to the environment in terms of friendship, and that they will go back to their countries as significant ambassadors for the university.
I think he would have heard what we were saying. I think he knows that there's a lot of opposition.
Victorian Ewan Walters was one of 2 former champions who promised plenty in Australia's elite tournament for trainee professionals. But Walters will have to improve his short game if he's to win his 2nd PGA Futures Championship at the Newcastle Golf Course. He finished with a 2-over 74. Plenty of attention on his American playing partner Jim Schumann, who won the equivalent tournament in the States a fortnight ago. He shot an even par 72 and is well placed to launch an attack tomorrow. Dave Gillard is the best positioned of the New South Wales entries. He's 1 under 71, 3 strokes away from leader Craig Carmichael. Today's field of more than 140 golfers will be cut to just 60 after tomorrow's round, the rest to get the weekend off. It should be a cutthroat final 2 days, with those in contention not just playing for a title win and the $36,000 prize money, but also a player's card on the Australian Tour and an invitation to the US PGA Assistance Championship. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Newcastle already rates as one of the biggest coal ports in the world, rivalled only by Richards Bay, South Africa. Forecast demand for coal to fire planned new power stations and steel making in the rapidly expanding Asian region has forced the industry to act now to cope. The state government today approving a $700 million 10-year expansion of the Kooragang terminal.
When our stage 3 development is complete, PWCS will be the largest coal exporting facility in the world, and Newcastle will be the largest coal exporting port in the world.
At present, the Kooragang terminal boasts 2 of these 3-kilometre long coal stacks. The expansion will see the facility effectively doubled, with the construction of another 2 equal in size. The first priority, though, will be work to double the size of the shipping berth, with the addition of another loader and a waiting berth to cut turnaround times. By the time the project is completed, the port's capacity will grow from 41 million tonnes of coal a year to 77 million. The project promises hundreds of new jobs.
Around 200 jobs during the construction. But beyond that, because coal exports increase, that means there's going to be more jobs all the way from the mine sites right down to the port.
Preliminary work is expected to begin in the new year, subject to 43 strict environmental controls. Phil Hind, NBN News.
The equipment, known as Heartstart 911, will be used by Gosford lifeguards. Making use of the latest technology, the machine actually instructs users as they go along. When used in the first 5 minutes of a resuscitation incident, the machine increases survival rates from 18 to 43%.
Council should be commended for taking the step over the last 3 or 4 years. We've gone from strength to strength with rescue vehicles, IRBs, the Heartstart machine now. Mate, the guys are wrapped.
It's believed to be the first time a local government in Australia has used the equipment.
At a cost of $4,500, it's a great investment for the residents and the visitors to this area.
Although only in use on Gosford City beaches at the moment, lifeguard Craig Healy says it's only a matter of time before the machines are used throughout the country.
In the States at the moment, companies like McDonald's are having them in their general stores, and we believe that a couple of years down the track that's what will happen over in Australia.
Above a main corridor of the John Hunter Hospital, there's a grim reminder of the heavy toll HIV/AIDS has extracted in the Hunter. 145 red ribbons, one for each person to die from AIDS in the region over the past 10 years. However, at the hospital's Memorial Garden today, it wasn't all doom and gloom. 1996 has been a breakthrough year for treatments to control the virus.
With the current drugs available, we can shut virus off completely. But for how long we're able to do that at the moment is an unknown question.
While figures are generally unreliable, it's estimated 400 people in the Hunter live with the virus. As infection rates among gay and bisexual men plateau, there's been a very slight increase in infection rates among heterosexuals. Health authorities say education remains the key to stopping the spread of the virus, especially among the young.
It's very hard to maintain safe sex practices over a very long period, and many of the studies, even from Australia in the last year or two, have demonstrated that there is a problem.
The message is getting through. These 2 posters by high school students from Broadmeadow School and Merewether High have been selected for an exhibition at the Powerhouse Museum in Sydney. Defending one-day champions Merewether had it all before them in the field after their batting lineup crumbled to leave Charlestown chasing just 117 for victory. They went after the total with a vengeance. Ben Woolmer best with the bat, smashing a game-high 41 off just 31 balls, including 5 fours and a 6. He was ably supported by Steve Mace. After claiming 3 for 25 with the ball, Mace contributed a steady 33 with the bat to put Charlestown within comfortable reach of the target. Merewether's bowlers found little joy in the wicket, throwing everything at the Charlestown lineup. Charlie Schreck was out to make every ball a winner. He was eventually rewarded for his persistence. Shrek claimed all of the Charlestown wickets, finishing the day with figures of 3 for 37 off 8 overs. However, the pressure got the better of Merriweather as they tried to limit the score. In the end, though, it mattered little. Charlestown claiming the Tom Locker Cup with a boundary to take the match in just the 24th over. With the cup out of the way, Merriweather will be hoping today's performance isn't carried over into the regular competition. After a disastrous round of 5 over yesterday, Canberra's Craig Carmichael started in confident fashion, 4 shots clear of the field. In hot pursuit, American Jim Schumann. He started the day even and looked solid around the opening stages. Playing partner Jason Glanz made a shaky start, dropping a shot on the first. The Victorian recovered, a great tee shot on 3, setting up birdie. Not everyone was having as much success reading the tricky Newcastle greens though. Best of the women today was Victorian Jane Shearwood, a birdie on 5 setting up the round of the day, a 2 under par 70 and equal third for the tournament. Any challenge from the next placed lady, Lisa Newling, faded early in her round. Newcastle rookie Tony Wells had an up and down day. After an eagle on 4, a wayward drive on 5 saw him give 1 shot back. He recovered to finish the day 1 under the card and 3 over for the tournament. The Futures Championship ended up a battle between Carmichael and Schumann. The Canberran got the better of the course in the closing stages, carding a 2 over 74 to finish 3 shots clear. The victory earns him almost $7,000, but more importantly, an invitation to the 1997 Australian PGA and a trip to America for a trainee tournament. Phil Hind, NBN News.
It's this incident in Friday's Ericsson Cup match that's angered Breakers coach John Cosmina. Captain Troy Halpin was given the yellow card 30 minutes into the first half for persistent misconduct. Late in the game, Halpin was sent from the field.
And the second foul was pretty much a 50-50 between myself and the player, and he saw it as a second yellow card offence and I was sent off.
Looking over the incident today, Halpin says the first foul was a case of mistaken identity. The Breakers are taking heart over their 2-0 loss to the Knights after a strong midfield performance. Once again, it was a case of not finishing the good work off. A run of draws and Friday's loss has the Breakers sitting second from the bottom, but a bottleneck on the ladder has them just 4 points from third place.
To say that we're out of it at this stage would be a bit harsh, I think, due to the fact that there's a long way to go, probably 18 rounds, and a few good results, especially away. You know, our home form's been quite good, but a few results away and, you know, we could be up there.
The Breakers take on Gippsland Falcons at Breakers Stadium on Friday night. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
It was a sombre start to this morning's meeting in Cessnock as more than 800 miners bowed their heads to remember fellow workers lost in mining tragedies. The minute's silence was followed by continued calls fighting opposition moves in the upper house to cut workers' compensation by 25%. Confident their cry will be heard, the men voted to return to work.
It's only been the intervention of the Premier and the offer that he's made for new legislation that's got us to return to work.
Even without the proposed changes, miners say they're not happy with the current work cover arrangements. The union claims the families of 2 married men killed in the Gretley disaster will receive $227,000 each, while the men without dependents will only qualify for funeral costs and a headstone.
It's not fair. I mean, we all believe that we're equal, except that we're not equal under the law in terms of workers' compensation.
The work cover legislation will be reconsidered in the upper house tomorrow afternoon. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
It was enough to whet anyone's appetite as 10 second-year TAFE students from throughout the state chopped, cut and diced their way through today's practical exams. The students have already been tested in theory and were judged on their ability to prepare both beef and lamb to certain specifications. The meat then had to be prepared, ready for retail sale.
The judges then asked them questions about the preparation for it as far as cooking goes, the advantage to the consumer and the advantage to the retailer, whether the work put into the product and the presentation will mean more sales.
The winner of the state competition will compete in the National Meat Skills Championships in Queensland in March next year, while the winner of that competition goes on to represent Australia on a 10-day study tour of the United Kingdom, Germany and France.
It's quite a high level of achievement for them and they become an ambassador for the meat industry.
Emma Theossian, NBN News.
Like paintbrushes to a canvas, earth-moving machinery was busy shaping out the contours of a golfing masterpiece. Part of a $100 million development at Halliday's Point, the golf course will be the hub of a new village called Tallwoods.
It's a very, very rare site where you can build a golf course up through wonderful valleys, and the residential land can look like a grandstand down onto the golf course and look out at the ocean views at the same time.
The company redefining the town square principle, Torres Proprietary Limited, brought in one of the world's leading golf course architects, Dr. Michael Herzen from America. Dr. Herzen agreed to build his first course in Australia as a favour to Bill Richardson, one of the company's partners. Mr. Richardson says the 18-hole course will be one of the best in the country, suitable for players of all handicaps.
So that even if you play badly, you come away having had a wonderful day because the environment and the views and that are so beautiful. That's the feature of this golf course, and that every hole is different. It has a different signature to it.
The course is expected to be open by Christmas next year. Simone Cobb, NBN News.
%70 of these clippings will be exported overseas for processing. Italian suit makers were among those inspecting the superfine wool for sale in Newcastle today, planning to transform the soft fibre into men's suits worth $2,000 each.
We're here in Newcastle because we love this fine, superfine wool, which is definitely, in our opinion, the best in the world.
It's a view shared by many overseas buyers, including this group from Japan who use the wool to make ladies' underwear.
Woolen underwear, Japanese ladies require high quality.
The overseas interest helped to boost prices as 5,000 bales went under the hammer. A Japanese clothing company topped the day, paying $15,100 for a bale of superfine wool from Armidale. The surge in prices has renewed calls to retain the wool sales centre in Newcastle. Brokers keen to fight federal government moves to centralise the service in Sydney.
There's some good signs, and we're hopeful that we may have sales here next year and for the years to come.
The sales will continue for the next 2 days. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
Brazil's Guilherme Tamega is more used to a bodyboard than sickbed, but he handled the conditions well in Newcastle's John Hunter Children's Hospital. He was joined by Australian, Hawaiian and American champions, all providing the perfect tonic for the up-and-coming bodyboarders. But today's visit is also a check-up on Newcastle's ability to stage a world bodyboard event.
We've brought them up to see Newcastle, see our surfing beaches. We've got Surfest up in Newcastle, we've got the Mark Richards City Pro. We'd like to see a GOB event held in Newcastle.
The organisers hope to attract a round of next year's World Circuit, and even in today's conditions, it's obvious the competitors want to come back.
I really like because it's not as big as I thought. The town is really small and like peaceful, and I'm enjoying. It's really cool.
The bodyboarders head to Wollongong in the next few days for the Australian round of the world titles. The Brazilian expected to wrap up back-to-back championships. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
The students from Newcastle's Merewether High built the boats for an electronics project. Besides designing, constructing and testing the vessels, the students had to attract sponsorship to cover their costs.
We've been working on it for about 3 terms now of school years, and all of our electronics lessons have been devoted to it.
The final products are worth almost $400.
Fair bit. We knew how to spend a lot of money. Basically, that's what we learnt.
Today, the students put their designs to the real test, a 2-lap enduro of Newcastle's Foreshore Pond. After 6 months' work, victory is sweet. Like all good racing teams, the visitors took the time to thank their sponsors, especially the one that helped most.
And also the sun, because without it, the boat which wouldn't have gone.
Alcohol-related crime in Newcastle soars over the Christmas break, 49% of it occurring during the Christmas period. Last year, alcohol-related crime rose over the previous year, 289 reported cases of assault, 125 of malicious damage and a similar number of street offences. Publicans gathered today with local police to map out a strategy to combat crime over the festive season. It's these publicans who are being asked not to serve inebriated patrons.
Those managers that decide not to attend to their premises or do their checks and balances do run the risk, obviously, of being targeted insofar as police activities where we find that there is an excess of alcohol-related crime.
And police have a clear message for those revellers drinking too hard.
Stay off excess consumption of alcohol and stay away from Newcastle if you decide to drink to excess. We'll be here to handle the issues.
And minor changes are in store for this year's Santa pub crawl around Merewether. The crawl is now a Christmas institution in Newcastle, running for the past 14 years. Police are asking publicans to hire extra security to control around 6,000 people expected to attend the annual pilgrimage. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
They've only been playing golf for a couple of years, and even then it's been just for fun. But after winning the regional title at Horizons Golf Course this week, training for the trio has taken on a more serious note. Gareth Moller, Michael Madden and Clinton Lowe practice daily and now play off single-figure handicaps, today displaying the form that helped them beat 20 other teams. Amazingly, apart from some tips from mum and dad, the Henry Kendall High School students are basically self-taught.
I've had 2 lessons in my life, but they were enough to get me on the right track.
The team is now preparing for the state finals to be held in Sydney in January, confident they'll perform well.
I reckon we can go okay if we shoot like we did at Horizons.
And while they're still playing for fun, there's definitely no doubt where they'd like to be in the future.
Up there with the best of them. Winning lots of championships.
Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
Bar Beach offered little surf and little challenge to Bill Stewart. For the veteran of the 70s pro surfing circuit, the real excitement is now in the shaping room. His designs are largely responsible for the longboard renaissance sweeping the world, a renaissance not confined to middle-aged men rediscovering their youth.
The problem with longboarding, it was condemned a little bit because no one wanted to be seen on one. So now it's an accepted thing because the youth has jumped on it.
His innovations like the 6-inch tail fin and the double concave bottom have breathed new life into longboarding. Until now, importing a Bill Stewart board was an expensive exercise, but under an arrangement, a Newcastle surf shop will import pre-shaped blanks and finish them, everything from high performance to beginners boards.
When I was over there a few months back, he said, "Hey Roy, I make a board that you couldn't even fall off."
As for the future, Bill Stewart believes the limits of the longboard are yet to be reached.
I've always thought that in the past, it's like, geez, where do we go now? And something else always seems to come up, so who knows where it's going to end up in 100 years from now. We'll probably be riding motorized hydrofoils and doing 360 aerial barrel rolls.
Until then, a Bill Stewart plank could well be the next best thing. Phil Hind, NBN News.
The massive hunt for Luke Harry Wickens, a convicted child sex offender, and Matthew Fonda in jail for assault began in Bathurst 6 days ago. The hunter became the centre of the search after a crash in Newcastle on Wednesday night, when a Honda Civic was slammed by a stolen Land Cruiser in Derby Street. Yesterday it was found abandoned in bushland in the Tomaree National Park. 30 police from Nelson Bay, Raymond Terrace and Stockton were joined by water police and the dog squad to scour the area, but bad weather hampered their search. Today the hunt swung to Tanilba Bay after an anonymous caller told police he'd seen the escapees trying to buy a gun in Clemenceau Crescent. Police believe the pair are now driving a white Daihatsu Charade OZ8 429 stolen from Shoal Bay last night. 29-year-old Luke Wickens is serving a 25-year sentence after he was convicted in 1988 for the abduction and rape of a 2-year-old Charlestown girl. 27-year-old Matthew Fonda has dyed red hair and is of female appearance. He was serving a 2-year term for assault and drug offences. Police say the men are dangerous and should not be approached by the public. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
Dr Nitschke, the first man in Australia to assist with illegal suicide, told a forum in Newcastle today that of the 40 people currently seeking to legally end their lives, most are from rural areas, the majority are women, and 90% have terminal cancer. However, their plans may be cut short. On Monday, the House of Representatives will take a conscience vote on a private member's bill to overturn the Northern Territory law.
Now, given that we have something like, as I said, 75% of the Australian electorate in favour of this legislation, to watch this total failure of spirit and cowardice on the part of the politicians of Australia in refusing to stand up in what is an important social issue, I think is disgusting. And
sharing the stage with Dr Nitschke today was the sponsor of the private member's bill, Liberal MP Kevin Andrews. He told the audience of mostly legal and medical students the right to die legislation sends the wrong message to the community.
And we all know that what we legislate to allow is perceived as what we approve and encourage.
Outside the forum, Mr Andrews was predicting his bill would be passed on Monday.
Look, I would hope that the bill would pass. Certainly the level of disquiet that's been expressed by members on both sides of the House is such which I think many people are unconvinced about the Northern Territory legislation.
Dr Nitschke says it would be a backward step.
We'll go back to the bad old days. We'll have backyard euthanasia options being the only ones available for desperately ill people, and that'll be a black day for Australia.
Phil Hind, NBN News.
The Hunter Eagles entered the series against the Monarchs with a record they'd prefer to forget. In their first clash this season, Melbourne won 4-0 and Hunter lost American import Preston Wilson to injury. But the only damage last night at Marathon was being inflicted by the locals. Early on, there was nothing between the sides. In the first game, it was still 0-0 at the bottom of the second innings, tight pitching the highlight for both sides, New York import Barry Short leading the locals in fine style. But at the top of the fifth, the visitors hit their way to the lead. Outfielder Aaron Harvey smashed a two-base hit to score Dean Marnell. The visitors won that game 2-1, but the Eagles bounced back to win the second game convincingly, faultless pitching the key in the 7-2 victory. The Breakers haven't won since round 1 of the Ericsson Cup, and the 8-week winning drought looks set to continue. The opening goal came only 10 minutes into the match. The locals too were creating space and opportunities, but finishing again came to haunt them. Newcastle couldn't find the net. Gippsland could. An own goal levelled the scores at 1 apiece before the locals appeared set to go on with the job. 10 minutes later, a gift went begging. Then Harry James set up Robbie Ironside for another. And when Gippsland fended off 2 lightning strikes shy of half-time, the sides went to the break locked at 1-1. The Breakers' dominance continued in the second term, and finally some luck fell their way when Harry James' cross found Mark Wilson. James was coming in for plenty of attention. The Breakers striker brought down twice in 10 minutes. The second incident forced him from the field. Then another blow for the locals, this time in the form of the equaliser. Both teams had chances to break the deadlock, but instead had to settle for a draw. It's the 5th time this season Newcastle has failed to get a result.